Imagine we're building a Storybook generator app that uses the Chat Completions API from OpenAI. Let's generate a random story. Okay, so we got back a random story and this part is working fine. But did you notice any issue or room for improvement that we can make? Let's try generating another random story, just the issue becomes more apparent. If you haven't figured it out, the issue is that we have to wait a noticeable number of seconds before we get back a response from the API. Now, this delay occurs because we have to wait for the entire response to be generated by the AI before we can start using it. In this example, we're just generating a few sentences. But if you're generating larger content with thousands and thousands of words, then you'll notice an even larger delay. This is where streaming helps. Let's enable streaming and let's generate another random story. With streaming enabled, you no longer need to wait for the full response to be generated. Instead, you begin to receive pieces of the response as soon as they become available, greatly enhancing the user experience. Let's try that one more time. And you'll notice that almost immediately we start getting pieces of text as soon as they're available. This is the same experience that ChatGPT provides. But how does this actually work? When we click the Generate Random Story button, we're calling an API to generate and return the story using GPT. This API is built and powered by BuildShip. BuildShip is an AI-powered low-code visual backend builder, and it's a great choice for building powerful and scalable APIs, scheduled tasks, cloud functions, and much, much more. It has multiple integrations with various AI models and providers such as Hugging Face, OpenAI, Stability AI, and Replicate AI, just to name a few. With all of this, just to say that it's a great option for building your next AI-powered application. Now, here we have our BuildShip API workflow, which is being used by our Storybook generator demo. BuildShip workflows are made up of multiple nodes, and the first node we have here is a special one. This is the REST API called Trigger. When we deploy a workflow in BuildShip and we use this trigger, we get back a publicly accessible API endpoint that we can use to kickstart the execution of this workflow. Now, for the configurations, we're setting the API endpoint to chat streaming and the HTTP method is set to post. The main parts of this workflow that we want to focus on are the regular OpenAI text generator node, which is using the Chat Completions API, as well as the stream response node, which is also using the Chat Completion API, but with the streaming option enabled. But before we get to these nodes, we are doing some conditioning in this workflow. In the branch node, we're checking to see if the streaming field in the request body is set to true. If it's set to true, then we will execute the stream response node. Otherwise, we'll just run the normal text generator node. It's worth mentioning that we're only using 2 OpenAI nodes in this demo, but BuildShip provides much more OpenAI integration nodes outside of the box. You can easily find them by going to the nodes library. If you go to add node, and if you scroll down to the OpenAI group, you'll see that we also have nodes for generating images using GPT for vision, in converting text to speech. So when we send a request from our app with streaming disabled, the normal text generator node will be executed. And as previously mentioned, this node uses the Chat Completion API to generate text based on a given prompt. The key point to keep in mind is that this node does not take advantage of the streaming option. So if you're generating a large amount of text, then be prepared for a lengthy delay. But the good thing is that BuildShip gives us the best of both worlds, and we can provide a much better user experience by using the stream response node instead. To use this node and any other OpenAI nodes, you'll first need to configure your OpenAI API key. And you can easily create one if you don't already have one by going to Secrets, Add Secret. The next thing you'll need to do is specify your system prompt or user prompt. In this case, we're just telling GPT-4 to generate a 10-sentence long story. You might be wondering what's the difference between these two nodes, because essentially they're doing the same thing. They're using the Chat Completions API, given the prompt, generate text, and return it back to the client. The first difference is that the stream response node enables the streaming option whenever it makes a call to the Chat Completions API. And with streaming enable, we don't have to explicitly return the response once it's available back to the client. Instead, the response will be streamed into the client. The return node here is not returning any specific value. It's just returning an OK status code to indicate a successful execution of the workflow. Whereas with the text generator node, we actually have to wait for the entire content to be generated, and then we have to return that value back to the client. And this is precisely why you have to wait a number of seconds before you get a response from the AI. And the beautiful part about using BuildShip for this is that all the complexity of the event streaming and server streaming is tucked away, so you don't have to worry about any of the code required to have something like this working on the backend. And that's all there is to it. So if you're currently working on an app that is suffering badly from these text generation delays, then do be sure to give BuildShip's stream response node a try today. Oh, and one more thing, we have tons of contents just like this already on our YouTube channel, and with more being added by the week. So make sure to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on any new content we release. That's all for now. See you in the next one.